Hello, I'm the Who Guy and welcome back to a very special video where today we are taking a look at issues 23, 24, 25 and 26 of the Hachette Dalek Partwork. We're going to be opening up the magazines and taking a closer look, as well as build our Dalek and take a closer look at our awesome free gift. Timestamps will be on your screen now if you want to skip to an issue or part of the video, and if you haven't already, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe down below for loads of Doctor Who content. Let's get straight into the build. If you want to skip to a certain part on this video, here are the timestamps on your screen now. They'll also be in the description and comments. Firstly, let's have a look at our awesome TARDIS mug, and doesn't this look cool? Yes, TARDIS mug. Yeah, the pictures online said it was going to be a Dalek blueprint mug. Of course, it does say on the website that it's subject to availability and it could change. So technically, they didn't promise that it would be a blueprint mug, just a mug. And well, yeah, we got this TARDIS mug, which I actually think I prefer. I really do like it, showcasing the Jodie Whittaker to Ncuti Gatwa era box. And it's really nice. It is really scratched, so there are parts of the paint off. I don't know whether you can see that, so that's a bit unfortunate. But it comes in this really nice little display box as well, which I'll probably keep it in for now and then use this mug. But it's a really cool mug nevertheless. That's two of the many free gifts that have been TARDIS related and not Dalek related, so very confusing with that. But I still like the mug nevertheless. And of course, you can only get that if you subscribe to these issues. So let's get straight into issue 23. And there is our part box. Of course, the most bent magazine that you've ever seen. I really do hate that these magazines do come like this. It'd be really nice if there was a bit of thin piece of cardboard, because in some of them they do, some of them they don't. And yeah, that isn't great. But let's take a look inside the magazine. We've got the red banner this time. And inside you got the contents page, and it looks like our adventure in time and space is a Genesis of the Daleks, part 5. And this just gives us a rundown of that episode, all the behind the scenes, and just an episode overall. And an interesting read. In the time vortex this time, we're looking at Dalek invasions. Finally, we have our instructions of what we will be continuing on with today, which looks like it's going to be the midsection. So there are your instructions, and on the back, a sneak peek of issue 24 coming up later in this video. So here's our part box. Let's get this open. This one thing they do really well is packaging all of the parts up. Look how nicely wrapped these all are. So here are all our parts. We got a midsection piece here, got a little connector piece, and our AP and FP screws. Let's get building. And of course, we have our midsection from our previous videos. If you haven't checked these out already, where we've been building our Dalek, we've done the dome basically now, and now we're on to the midsection. So click up on the top right hand screen. That should send you to a playlist with all of the episodes. But firstly, what we need to do is add this panel here to our Dalek control center. And then we need to attach it with 4 FP screws. And that should just clip into place like so, just making sure it all aligns up. With that all pushed into place, we now need to add those 4 FP screws, and that should be fairly simple. So just making sure all of the screws are into place in the holes. Let's get these in. So with all 4 of those in, we can now flip it over and it should be all aligned pretty perfectly. And that is looking good. And now we have a full kind of wall setup going on with our Dalek. So then what it would like us to do is grab our connecting piece and add these 2 sides together, which should just line up like so. So making sure the longer side is facing upwards, and this should just slot into place like so. It does clip into place, but we will be holding this in together a further 6 FP screws. Let's make sure we get these in nicely. Now with all of those screws into place, these 2 walls are much sturdier than they were and a bit more aligned. So yeah, that's pretty cool. But that's not it for this issue, because if you remember in the previous issue, we were told to keep a hold of these 2 parts that we made, but now we're going to be adding them to our Dalek. I also have heard loads of people having issues getting into here because of this chair piece. So what I'm going to do is take this chair out, and I do advise you to do that in this part, just because it can be quite fiddly trying to get all these pieces in, and then we'll put this in at the end of the episode. So all we need to do for that is remove these screws, but it will be simple enough to reattach later. So with those screws removed, we've removed the chair. That can be placed to one side. And now we've got a bit more access to this area. So what I would like us to do is the one labelled B is put it into these two holes, just like we did last time, and plug it in down the bottom. And then we will screw this in. So lining it up down the bottom and then just holding it into place like so, like that. With that flipped over and into place, we now just need to add 2 FP screws into those holes. Well, it says FP screws, but I believe it means AP screws. I think the instructions are wrong because we've only got 1 FP screw left. So I think, and I don't think they're going to fit into there. So I think we need to use the AP screws provided in this issue. So that is a little typo, I believe, in the magazine. Comment down below if I'm wrong. So let's add those AP screws in. So with that into place, this piece won't fall off. That is fully secure into our Dalek control center. Now let's add this final one over there. Line it up with the hole down the bottom and then line up the final pieces down here. And with that fully aligned, again, adding those AP screws into these 2 holes. With that fully screwed into place, that is issue 23 all done. So what we've done is add this extra wall in for our Dalek control center, and we added the 2 pipes that we made last issue. We're really bulking this up now, and I believe we're going to be continuing on with this section with the further 3 issues to look at in this video. So let's get straight into the next issue. Here's issue 24. Let's get this open. Magazine and part box. We got the blue banner this time. The contents of the magazine, as well as our adventure in space and time. This issue is The Power of the Daleks Part 2, a second Doctor story, loads of behind the scenes as well. And this magazine is just full of facts and just loads of awesome knowledge all about the Daleks. I really wish they came in better condition because they're really nice collector pieces. And then we have our instructions. Looks like we're continuing on once again with the midsection and adding it to our control base. Sneak peek of issue 25 coming up in this video. So here are our parts this issue. We've got the 2 containers, our screws, and another one of the walls. Let's continue with our Dalek build. And let's hope the instructions actually are right this time. So what I would like us to do is grab our 2 containers and add them to this wall. So with that pushed into place, it can be quite tricky to line up. We then need to add our AP screws in, labelled correctly this time in the instructions. I'm not an expert at these Partworks. I'm just trying to do my best. I've never done one before, but there you go. That is now into place really securely. Again, just slot into place, and that went in much easier than the last one. And then once again, we just need to turn it over and add our AP screws in. And that's that done. Both of those are now fully connected to our Dalek wall. So now what I would like us to do is add this to our Dalek control center. So we will grab our Dalek control center, and it looks like we're going to be building up finally on this Dalek control center. So this should just slot into place like so, putting that into the holes, and they fit in really nicely. So that is into place, but we need to secure it actually to the center with 4 FP screws, and they will go in the holes there. And now with those into place, that is fully secure onto our Dalek control center. This is looking really, really cool now. We're definitely building up. It gives us a nice scale of how big this Dalek control center is actually going to be. So that is it for issue 24. Let's get into issue 25. And here is issue 25. And here are our parts and magazine. With the magazine, of course, issue 25 with the gold banner. Looks like we're going to be looking at the Imperial Faction Dalek. And of course, our step-by-step instructions. Such a shame that they've done away with the Dalek artwork on the left-hand side. I really did like that, but we've got our contents page and our adventure in space and time. This time is the Remembrance of the Daleks Part 4. Of course, the Special Weapons Dalek, and we get loads of behind-the-scenes look of this episode. And we get the Anatomy of a Dalek, which this time is the Imperial Dalek. And then finally, again, continuing on with our midsection for the step-by-step instructions. And it looks like we're repeating the exact same steps as what we just did in issue 24. This is apparently the hard one coming up later in this video. We've got exactly the same parts as last issue. This is going to be a quick one. Let's continue on with the build. Once again, grabbing these containers and putting them into place like so. So making sure you align them once again like last time. Again, is tricky to find out which one goes into which holes, but once you've got it in, we just need to add our AP screws in. There you go, that piece is fully into place. Let's replicate that with the next one. And that's them into place now. And now what we need to do is attach this to our Dalek control center, which is starting to get really bulky with a lot of height. Once again, we just need to line this up just like we did with that previous issue. That just slots into place like so. And now we need to add the FP screws in. And with those all screwed in, that is all into place. And look at that, that is looking really nice. And it's quite big now. I can barely fit it onto camera. Let's continue now with issue 26. Here's issue 26. Got a nice little long box here. Let's get this open. Got the magazine and parts. This time we got all these wires, it looks like, in this issue. And we're taking, again, a look at Davros. Inside, contents page, as well as the adventure in space and time. This time is the ambush. The 1964 story, including the First Doctor. And our anatomy of the Dalek this time is the Genesis Dalek. Not too sure why a Davros is on the front cover when pretty much everything in here isn't to do with Davros. We get our step-by-step instructions, including all of these wires, which I know are going to be a pain to put in. And it does say here that there is a technique tip that you can take out the seat, which I've already done. But yeah, this looks like hell, so strap yourself in, because something's definitely going to go wrong. But here's a little sneak peek of issue 27 coming in the next video of the Dalek Hachette Partworks, and it looks like we're actually getting some electronics in this one. Wow, look at all these parts we got on this issue. This is going to be a fiddly one, finding out which piece goes to where, because I don't believe they're numbered at all, so this is going to be tough. Let's get into issue 26's build. So firstly, what I would like us to do is grab our integrator piece and add that to our Dalek wall. So that should just be as simple as lining that up. I really do like the design of that. Now this is going to be fairly difficult, so let's be careful. There's the first one in, and those four are now in, and now that integrator is into place. This is all lined up nicely. Yeah, looks pretty cool. There's a big seam line here between the two parts there. I'm not much of a fan of that. Plus the line doesn't really line up. That might just be me misaligning things, but it looks okay. And you're not really going to see it when it's inside the Dalek, because of course the Dalek mutant will be in front of this, blocking most of the detail we're adding to this. But it's looking really big now. Let's get these awful looking wires in. I'm not too sure how I'm going to show this on camera, but I'll try my best. Let's plug these in. So I've had to turn the light on just to see in it, 'cause it's so dark where it's all black. I've put it in as much as I can. It is really difficult, and I think I've aligned it right. I hope that's the right wire as well. There's loads of multiple ways you can put this in, but I hope that's the right way. Now let's get the other one in. So once again, that just needs to slot in that hole there, and then one of the holes in here. It's really hard to get on camera to do it, but I'll try my best. If not, you just have to take my word for it. Well, that second one's in, but it looks like it's going to pop out again, to be honest. These wires are absolutely horrible. I saw online there were loads of people having problems with them, and I am no exception. I'm hoping I'm putting the right ones in as well, but that looks okay. This next one, which is 26J, I believe needs to go into there. I believe this is 26J. Once again, it's just so difficult. They needed to label them, really, even if it was stickers you could pull off. So yeah, we've got to put it into that hole and then into the top of our chip. With that other one in, it looks like that. I believe I've done this right. Comment down below if I haven't, and I'll try and fix it for the next issue, but I believe that is all in correctly. And now what we need to do is add the further pipes. And that one's a bit different, because what we need to do is add this little piece to the actual pipe itself. And it has a little D slot, and that should just fit in like so. And then we need to fit this into our Dalek control center. So it needs to go into that center hole there, and it connects up there. And that went in much easier than the rest. So with that one in, now what we need to do is add these two in, and that is it for this issue. So what you want to do is grab the two final long wires you will have and add them into the two holes there. There's one there and then one tucked away between those wires. So that's going to be quite difficult to do. Not sure why we didn't do these wires first, really. But yeah, these don't attach to anything at the top though, so just keep in mind to be careful. So yeah, using the D slots, let's put them in. And those two wires are now into place. Sorry about not being able to show you much, but it is so difficult to get those in, so be mindful not to snap anything. I'm going to put the chair in, and that is everything done. We have got a load of spare wires as well in this stage, so they just need to be put to one side. With that seat back into place, it looks like that. It is very dark and a bit basic looking, just where it's all this black plastic. I have seen some really cool customs online though, so you can paint this. I'm going to leave it for now. I'm not too sure whether I will paint it in the future, but I have seen some really cool customs. So that is it for today's episode. Be sure to smash that like button and subscribe if you're not already. This is looking really, really cool. A bit plain with the whole black, but I guess it is kind of screen accurate, but I have seen loads of cool customs. It's a shame you have to take things off once again and put things back on, and those wires were tricky, so do be careful on these stages. It does look pretty cool, and it's really, really big, and that is just the inside of our Dalek, let alone our Dalek casing. So thank you guys so much for watching. I've been the Who Guy, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!
They're Daleks. They're called Daleks.